Stoicism doesn't mean that you turn off your emotions. It doesn't mean that you suppress your emotions. As humans, we are social creatures. We need each other. Hi, this is Jim Breon. Welcome to this YouTube channel where we discuss all things mental health. What I'm going to be talking about today is something that I've had people ask me about, which is a trend on social media and on the internet, and it's the subject of stoicism. Stoicism is a philosophy that was very pronounced in the Greco-Roman times. And it's something that a lot of, especially young men, have adapted. And then they talk about their feelings about being a Stoic and what that means to them. But unfortunately, I think a lot of people really misunderstand and misinterpret what Stoicism actually means. Now, I'm by no stretch an expert in philosophy or Stoic philosophy, although I do read a lot about various philosophies. But what I see as a trend on social media is young men that are basically thinking that being a Stoic person means suppressing your emotions, having no emotions. And you'll see TikTok videos or Instagram videos or YouTube videos even, where they'll show quotes from Stoic philosophers, and in the background are images of people being warriors or MMA fighters or, boxers. And they're equating really toxic masculinity with Stoicism. And I think that's a real mistake. So in the last couple of years or so, we've seen that especially millennial and Gen Z men and boys, some of them become obsessed with this idea of Stoicism. And unfortunately, many of them actually understand what it means and put out some really helpful material, but many of them have also kind of reduced Stoicism to what's really kind of a toxic consumer version of Stoicism that they use to legitimize harmful behavior, thinking that it's wisdom. So Stoicism doesn't mean that you turn off your emotions. It doesn't mean that you suppress your emotions. Part of what it means is that you have to learn how to regulate and manage your emotions so that you're not driven by them. A lot of the philosophy of Stoicism mirrors a lot of Buddhist philosophy, practicing radical acceptance, figuring out what I can change and what I can't change, and rather than focusing on the things that are out of my control, focusing on the things that are. And really, I think the heart of it is focused on true happiness or authentic happiness. The Greeks had two different ways of describing what they thought of as happiness. The one word was Hedonia, another word was Eodumonia. Hedonia is sort of the root word of hedonism, hedonisk. It's the pleasure principle. That's finding happiness through material things. The problem with that sort of happiness is that you can be on a hedonic treadmill, meaning that you never actually get the happiness that you want. If you believe that happiness, I'll be happy when I finally get that fancy home. But then after a while you realize, I'm really not that happy. I want a second home. I got to have a fancy car, and now I got to have another garage full of toys. And that hedonic pleasure principle view of happiness is really kind of never ending. The Greeks also talked about eudaimonia. Eudaimonia is happiness that's achieved through living a purposeful life, living based on your values, having relationships with people, experiencing joy and true happiness, living the good life, not the expensive life. Part of what Stoicism teaches people is about accepting external realities and accepting other people as they are. It's not about suppressing desires as much as it is about finding authentic happiness based on emotional intelligence, mindfulness, purposeful action. Being Stoic does not mean not having friendships, not living with love in your life, and only being rational. It's not about learning how to be more like Mr. Spock, a Vulcan, or being hard-hearted or robotic or even avoidant. And I've seen some videos that really people are talking about what sounds much more like avoidant behavior or avoidant attachment and saying that that's stoic. Absolutely, it talks about learning to discard vanities, but not about making yourself an invulnerable performer, which is one of the toxic ways that our culture socializes men and boys. There's a motto in Stoicism, Memento Mori, which means remember that everything dies. And some people hear that and they think, well, if that's true, then why should I get attached to anything? And it can lead to sort of nihilistic thinking. But when I hear that motto, Memento Mori, that speaks to me more like recognizing the impermanence of everything. In other words, that everything changes. Again, that's very much a Buddhist principle as well. So Stoicism doesn't mean that we're determined to be fatalistic or hopeless or nihilistic. Again, it's about recognizing the impermanence of all things. And actually, when you actually get that principle that everything changes, nothing lasts forever, rather than making life pointless, I think it makes life and the people and things in it more precious if you recognize that nothing lasts forever. A big precept in Stoicism is that attachment leads to suffering. Again, very Buddhist approach to life. Again, not being invulnerable. And it talks about self-sufficiency, but that doesn't mean that you're detached and you're non-relational. In fact, we have to choose interdependence, healthy interdependence. Because the truth is that as humans, we are social creatures. We need each other. We need to feel a sense of belonging. And when it comes to criticism, Stoicism looks at criticizing aspects of some things, but that doesn't mean throwing everything out because you find something that you disagree with in it. So it's not withdrawing from the world. It's not about living a joyless, grim existence without feelings. And Stoicism stressed being connected to nature. That's much harder to do nowadays when so much of nature is paved over and you have to go out somewhere often to connect to it. When you look at this balance between the things that I can and I can't control, you might think, well, the weather is out of my control, but you can still work to protect the earth and affect the things and the people around you and take positive action. Even taking political action, not giving up and becoming apolitical. In fact, I think that that's an indulgence that we really can't afford in the current state of the world. In some ways, I can see how some young people on social media can adapt some of this hopelessness and disillusionment because they've seen systems failing us. Really, it's the people that are working in those systems. But in a lot of ways, the world doesn't function the way it should for younger generations. And there's a lot of disillusionment, and that's valid in a lot of ways. So this Stoic approach can also be seen as a symptom of a bigger problem. But many people that are posting online about Stoicism, they misappropriate it, and they think of it as kind of a get-rich-quick scheme where you can do anything, ethical or not, to get ahead as long as you just numb your emotions and you act like you're a machine. And that's a very misguided interpretation of Stoicism. That really is toxic masculinity. It's narcissism, and it borders on sociopathy, not wisdom. So the Stoic philosophers didn't see experiencing feelings and emotions as a weakness, but rather they saw the need to act on them consciously. If the video is helpful, I encourage you to like and subscribe, sign up for notifications so that we can let you know when more material is coming out. And I'd really like to hear what people think about this and other topics. So leave comments and let's create a conversation. And until next time, take care of yourself and take care of each other.